Next one. One of the questions that I got this week was kind of baffling to me, so I want to read this one out. Mr. Dellutri, please call me Carmen. If my debt is sold, what rules do I have to play by? I don't really get that one. Let's start from the beginning and break it down. Obviously, this person had a debt, and at some point in time, either it was sold, transferred, assigned. Same thing, but theoretically not. Sold. Let's say I have a debt that's owed to me. I have the right to sell that debt to a third-party debt collector or somebody else who wants to buy it from me. So, or I can assign it and hire an agent, and that agent will work on my behalf to collect that debt from the third party, thereby taking me out of the process. So, I mean, that's one of the things that it's important for me to know what's going on here. But at the same point in time, if the debt is sold, what rules do I have to play by? I'm assuming that this person doesn't understand or understands the difference between the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and the Florida Consumer Collection Practices Act. Remember, under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, it only applies to third-party debt collectors, including attorneys trying to collect the debt on behalf of their clients. But it does not, the federal law does not apply to individuals or companies collecting their own debts. So if the debt is sold, I'm assuming that we're going there, if this debt is sold to a third party, is that third party trying to collect their own debt? If they are trying to collect their own debt, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act does not apply. Again, it only applies to third-party debt collectors. Now, let's say, for example, that debt is assigned to a third party. Excuse me. If it's assigned to a third party and they're acting as my agent, my debt collector, in other words, again, let's use Jamie as an example. Jamie owes me $100. He's not paying me. So I'm not really in the business of collecting debts. I'm in the business of making loans. So I'm going to hire it out a third-party debt collector. Say, hey, I'll give you 10% of whatever you collect from Jamie. Okay? He says, great. We get a contract between us. He calls Jamie. And he's saying, Jamie, you owe money. Jamie, you owe money. And Jamie's like, hey, leave me alone. And the guy's like, starts cussing at him and yelling at him, screaming at him, I'm going to kick your butt, I'm going to do this, I'm going to come over here and, you know, have you arrested and all this other stuff. All violations of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Obviously, that could come back on me one day, but since I hired a third-party debt collector, that third-party debt collector is liable to Jamie if Jamie sues them. Jamie could sue them and say, hey, this is what they said, this is what they did, I got it all documented, I got it all on tape, I got it all on text messages, I've got it all. Yeah, folks, I did have a case with text messages, and hopefully, I'm sure in the future there's going to be a lot more too. But anyway, Jamie would have the right to sue that third-party debt collector for violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Now, to take it one step further, the choice of forms. Where are you going to sue? Well, if I have a case where I only have one cause of action, and that's a state law cause of action, I'm going to sue in state court. If I have a case where I want to sue a third-party debt collector, I can sue them in state court, but they could remove me up to federal court. And I use it not as a higher court, but as a different court. You got the state court and you got the federal court. Kind of like run on two different tracks. So sometimes I can sue in state court, sometimes I can sue in federal court. The difference is, and if I get to choose, I want to decide where I want to be. If I want to be in federal court, fantastic, I'll sue in federal court. If I want to be in state court, then I can choose to be in state court, but at times they can remove me up to federal court. But if it's a purely state law cause of action, then, and I usually want to be in state court because I can get a jury trial faster and I can get my case hopefully resolved faster for my client, then I'm going to push to be in a state court forum. So if the debt is sold and that third party, again, go back to that example, it's collecting their own debt, the only cause of action I could see, unless there's some unfair and deceptive trade practice, would be to sue them in state court under the Florida Consumer Collection Practices Act. If I do that, then I'm going to ask for a jury trial. I want to get in there. I want to get my case moving as fast as possible through the system. So really, folks, that's a huge consideration. If you think you have a consumer violation, do some research. Find out what the creditor can do, what the creditor can't do. At the same time, if somebody's out there harassing you, pull your credit reports, see what's out there. You may have not only a consumer unfair debt collection practice, you may have a Fair Credit Reporting Act practice. So you got to really look and say, okay, what else is out there? What else have they done to me? Or could they have done to me? And that's really by having a good consumer law firm on your side, you can get all of your claims in, or strategically pick out those claims that are the best, pursue those claims, and then when you settle the case, you say, by the way, part of the settlement's going to be not only are you going to pay me damages, you're going to pay my attorney's fees, you're going to fix my credit report. And we're going to take care of this, this, and this. No problem. See, it's only limited by how creative or imaginative you and your attorney can get. But the reality is you got to plan these things out from the beginning. You want to know what your end result is going to be. So if you have a zombie debt collector contacting you, or a re-aged debt on your credit report, you need to dispute it. You need to follow all the right steps in the dog and pony show. You meet all the requirements of what you got to do. You get yourself aligned. You get your ducks in a row, whatever you want to call it, and then you strike hard when you know you've got the best possible case. And that might be just 1 out of 3 causes of action. It might be your two best, and you leave the other one aside. That may not be as strong. Think it out, plan it out, get it done.